My name is Dejane.
And I'm Diaja.
And we are twins from Georgia. And I've been a disciple going on almost 8 years now. I've been in Salt Lake City, Utah for 4 years on the original mission team back in 2020.
And I am not a disciple. I just moved here. It's been a month now. And so I have been joining my sister at church services and church events.
You know, the thing I did with your sister was I didn't ask her to introduce herself.
Okay.
So I'm asking you to introduce yourself.
I'm Diaja. That it?
Yeah, I guess that's good.
Sorry.
So you're Dejane's sister, and what I really just kind of want to get is maybe an understanding of your guys' relationship, where you were born. You grew up in the same household, and about when did you guys go your own separate ways?
So we were born in California, but raised in Georgia. My mom had us, and we were a couple of months old. We moved to Georgia, Atlanta to be more specific. And that's pretty much where we were raised, with our mom, our aunt, and our grandma. It was always just us, and then eventually our mom had a little sister. So after that, it was always the 6 of us. We went to high school, graduated high school, and that's when we actually split up. I ran track, or we both ran track in high school actually, but I wanted to pursue my track career in college, so I did actually get a scholarship. So I stayed in Georgia for college, and Dee was pretty much set on leaving, and she went to Oregon State. And so when I think I left first to move in on campus, and then not long after that is when she left and moved across the country, and that was in 2013. And so this is our first time living together or being back together in 10 years. But yeah, leaving or splitting up was really hard. It was really hard. Because we were together always. We shared a room pretty much always, and just like our lives were always together. Like I said, we ran track in high school, and we were really good. So actually not being able to be together, even just coming home to each other, was hard. But it was cool at the same time because we still talk almost every day. And so, you know, in the beginning it was harder for her because she didn't have family. I still had my mom, my grandma, my aunt, my little sister. We were all of like 20 minutes away. But I know for her, it was hard because she didn't have anyone. So I definitely was like worried. But again, like holidays, she would come back home and we would still see each other like for holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas. We tried to do things for our birthdays, but it was a little difficult in the beginning with competitions and competing. So a lot of times I actually wouldn't have the time because I'd be at a track meet somewhere. But yeah, so that was pretty much college. Once we got closer to, we both went to college for 5 years. So like in basically like our 4th and 5th year, once we kind of were like older and like more aware, we were working now, like full-time students and almost full-time / part-time working too. We actually could afford to do more together or for each other. And so that's when we actually started doing more birthday trips and more holiday trips. I don't remember when, but hold on, let me do the math. Yeah, junior year, my mom actually moved to Vegas. And so that kind of put her in between the two of us. And so Vegas would be like a meeting point for like trips and vacations. And so, but we also have family there too. So that kind of gave her more opportunity to come around because again, like we were basically on opposite coasts. So Vegas kind of was closer to her. And it was easier to go to Vegas. We would go to Vegas all the time. So yeah, that made it better. Yeah. And then basically once it came time to graduate, I think by then she was already a part of the church. I don't remember when she actually joined the church. But by then she was already a part of the church. And so she had already made friends and she got to know people. She was getting out more. So it was actually really like a breath of fresh or a sigh of relief maybe, or just one less thing to worry about her in terms of her being lonely, or just like not having people or someone, or like just the means of like getting to where she needed to go. So she was, I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm driving. I'm like, how? Whose car are you driving? She's like, oh, like a sister. And I'm like, great. Like, it's nice that she's meeting these people who are willing to help her or assist her. And then she was also doing like helping them as well, like babysitting. I think dog sitting she did a couple times, and house sitting, things like that. So it's definitely like a mutual thing. And they basically were all taking care of each other. So it was nice. Yeah. So for me,
Are you describing Oregon, or are you just lumping it all together?
this is Oregon. Yeah. So this is Oregon. Yeah. This is all Oregon.
Okay.
And then for me, it was hard for me too, with this competing. I wanted to go to the Olympics. I had like the biggest dream of going to the Olympics. But going to college was just like the biggest like reality check. I'm not the only one who wants to go to the Olympics. I'm not the only one who's good enough to go to the Olympics. And then I just realized, I wasn't good enough. It was hard to kind of like face that, because it was just like, I really need to let that go, in the sense of what's needed to go to the Olympics. I didn't have, and I didn't want to work for. It was hard. I competed in the 400, which is, I think, one of the hardest events outside of the 400 hurdles. I did actually do the hurdles one year. It was hard and pretty much a waste of my year, but it was hard in the sense like there's so many aspects of being an athlete in general, and then being a college athlete. You have to have the grades. You have to, on the school side, you have to have the grades. But on the competition side, you have to physically be able to handle it, and then just also be able to keep up. In high school, it was almost just natural talent, and it was easy. And then getting to college, I never lifted. We did strength and conditioning training. Never done that. So like my freshman year was almost just me and my body adjusting to an actual workout plan, which I never had in college. We would just run a little bit after school and compete on the weekends, but college was 5 a.m. weights, school classes, after class practice, and then maybe some other sort of strength and conditioning something. So it was an adjustment.
This is all you learning because there wasn't somebody that showed you or told you that this is what you could expect?
No. In terms of college in general, and then even being a college athlete, we were the first in our family to go to college. So we didn't actually have any guidance in scholarships and applications. I didn't apply to the school I went to until my second semester, my last semester of my senior year. So we didn't do like any pre-college courses, or we didn't really even do like SAT prep or anything like that. I didn't know how to apply. I honestly think my track coach applied me to the school that I went to. I don't recall actually applying to that school, but she actually did the work in terms of even getting in touch with the coaches. And the coach like randomly called me, and I'm like, how did you get this number? And he's like, oh, well, I have a scholarship for you. I'm like, okay, cool. So even like that, but it's just, I had no guidance. Like I didn't know what to expect. My high school coach, like she was amazing, But, you know, there's only so much that was done on that front. So I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to think. I thought I was going to the Olympics. I didn't actually consider what it would take to get there and how much it would take and the amount of time, the amount of energy, physically and mentally, emotionally. Like it required a lot, and that reality hurt. I'm like, oh, I don't think I want to do this. Like I wanted to. I'm like, I don't think I can. And then again, being on a college team where there's maybe 15, 20 of us per event group, everybody's not the same physically, what they can handle, what they can do. So where I feel like I could have gone or been better if I had a more personalized workout plan, it was something for everyone. So I kind of had to let that dream go. But again, like I still was good. It wasn't great. It wasn't the best, but I did enough to stay on the team. And I enjoyed it because it gave me my automatic friends and family, my teammates, and it was fun. Like my college experience was a college experience, and to tack on being a student athlete made it just that much more better. Being able to compete and travel. We traveled a lot. Spring breaks, we would go to Florida. We went to Florida and went to Louisiana, but just being able to do a lot, and like even having a friend, like she competed in a college as well. They didn't get that opportunity. They didn't have everyday training sessions. They didn't have a strength and conditioning coach. They didn't have their individual event coach. They didn't have personal trainers. They didn't get spring breaks. They didn't get those track meets every weekend. So I definitely was happy with where I was at. I know it could be worse, and I know it definitely could have been better, but I don't know. I don't want to complain.
I just wanted to kind of ask is like having somebody in your family doing something that was unexpected. At least it was expected for you to be an athlete because you said that from high school. Dee was just going to go and be a student, and you're like, okay, well, where she's going to go? And the next thing she's saying, hey, I'm going to go do this for a church. How does the family kind of view that, or how did they kind of take that?
We didn't like it at all. It was weird in the sense, like when she left, growing up, we went to church every Sunday, Bible study on Wednesdays.
So it's not that you didn't like it because it was church, because you grew up church faithful.
Yeah.
So it's something else, but even though it's still church.
Yeah. So it's something else in the sense. So our grandma always told her, you know, you need to find a church, find a church family, and she did. And it's not that, you know, you don't like church or don't want to do it. It's levels almost. Like we went to church, but we never the service on Sunday. Like Newt mentioned, like he would go to church, but they never opened a Bible, and that kind of resonated. Like we would go to church, but we never really opened the Bible, or you know, we never actually learned what it meant to like read the Bible and things like that. And so she's going to church and she's learning, and you know, she's building her faith. But where it got weird and where we had an issue was what they had her doing. So she, you know, freshman year, she's living on campus where she's close and has the means of walking to class. She doesn't have a car. She doesn't have a job. You know, like how can she afford to get to class if she moves off campus? So like the first red flag for me was she ends up moving off campus to live with strangers pretty much. And I'm like, why would you leave campus? How are you gonna get there? What are you doing? So it was like, okay, so she's no longer on campus. Weird, but sure. And then it got weird again because she's sharing a room, but like with 3 people, not just 2. And then at one point she's sharing a bed. Like, no, what are you doing? Like, why would you do that? Like,
and that has nothing to do with faith or
nothing.
Christianity. It's you were having the college experience, living on campus, and now you're sharing an apartment with a bunch of people.
With a bunch of people for,
they're all part of the same church.
You're all in the same boat. Like, you're all students. Some of you aren't working, some of you are working. To me, it was for the sake of rent, right? Like, the more people in a space, the less you have to pay. Sure. But again, like, I feel like you're sacrificing your personal space. And again, these are also people you don't know.
And why can't you go to that church and stay on campus and not move into a room with, 3 people and sharing a bed? Like, why do you have to do that?
We're asking her, and she's like, to me, like, her response is, it just makes sense, or this is like the best way it can be done for church. And I was like it just didn't make sense. And so that's where my issue, at least, came. Like, they're pulling you away from why you're even out there in the first place. You're there for education. Again, you can also find your church and religion and build your faith and all those things, but why do you have to do all of this? Why are you displacing yourself and putting yourself in this situation where you don't have to be in it? And then it kind of just progressively seemed to keep getting worse. Now they're moving frequently. They're moving twice a year, or some people are being called to plant something. So now y'all are short 3 people, and now you have to pay more money, which you don't have. Or more people are coming, so now y'all are squeezing more people in. Or the lease is up here, now y'all have to go somewhere else. Good luck figuring it out. Or, and
there's no satisfied answer that can be given.
No.
Especially if there are other churches that don't do this, and it seems like there is undue stress that's kind of put on because you jumped into a situation that you're not even sure why you jumped in it to begin with. And so the optics of what looks like is going on is you're not really seeing somebody, well, maybe personally you can see that she loves God and that she's faithful, but you've always seen that because that's what you guys grew up in. But now you just kind of see a situation where there's a chaotic lifestyle.
It just wasn't making sense. And so, and then again, it gets worse. Now she's moving out of the city of the school that she's going to. What do you mean you have to commute an hour now to work when you were just on campus? Why are you, again, being pulled further away? And I think maybe around this time she's working, but now, like, she has to find another job because she has to leave. But again, how are you getting there? Who's helping you here? And it was almost like she would leave and they're like, good luck figuring it out. But that's not just her, that's everyone that's in the household, this household that she's living in. Like, everybody else has their own things going on. Like, but again, like, y'all still have to go to church, you have to do your Bible studies and your devos, but you have to study for class, you have a test, you have to work, and now you have to also add on church events, church studies, church time. Now you're tired, now you're exhausted, now you're working less, you don't have as much money. It's almost like her time is being taken for things that she needs. She needs a job to start a career, things. She needs to go to class. Some days she's not going to class because she missed the bus. Now she's missing out on a lesson. Now her grades are going, maybe, I don't know about the grades, but this is just what I'm thinking. Like, now you're giving less to why you went out there, because you're giving more for this church.
And you see that?
Yeah.
And your mom and your grandma see that?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's kind of on the same boat of like, this doesn't seem...
It doesn't make sense. Like, why are you sacrificing this for that?
And there's no answer that she can give that kind of...
Nothing was making sense. And
and of course she's defending it, right? And so does that create chaos and tension?
A lot. So there were times where I feel like we were trying to have, not intervention, but we're sitting down to like, please break it down to us to where it makes sense. Because it's not making sense. Make it make sense. And she's, again, like, and it's the same. Like, her story's not changing. Like, her explanation, her answers aren't changing. They are the same. And we still aren't getting it. Like, her situation keeps changing, but again, her answers are still the same. And so it's just more like a concern, like, for your safety now, for your health, education. We can't come get you. You're on the other side of the country. There's nothing we can do from here.
But you felt like that was something you wanted to do.
Yeah, like, do you need help? Like, again, like, we have life. There's only so much we can do. Again, I'm also a college student. I can't do anything.
Yeah.
So, it's just like, it just wasn't. So now, like, our family's like, oh, like, she's in a cult. It's cult behavior.
And when you look it up, it only the information you find only backs that up.
Yeah, it's like just Googling the church.
Yeah.
And then if you get into a deep dive, like, it's either we love it or we hate it. Nothing in between.
And the people that love it are in it. And the people obviously
who hate
don't
it
have it.
were in it. And
were
they
in
just
it,
have
yeah.
nothing but XYZ happened to me and why I'm done.
And they have similar stories.
Yeah.
My daughter went to, or my sister went to school, and then now she's living in a different city. Yeah.
Yeah, they're preying on these college students who have nobody. So of course they're gonna lean on y'all because you're telling us, or you're telling them, we'll be your family. You're gonna also, build a relationship with God. But to do that, we need you to move out of whatever situation you're in to come in our situation. But while maybe the leaders of the church have their family, their house, their cars, their means, or they're set up, you're bringing all these people and the age ranges to me was interesting too.
So it's specifically college age kids that are kind of having this experience.
Some. There were some people, I feel like, around her, like in their late 20s, 30s, doing the same thing.
And they didn't just start, they've
been doing it. I think. Maybe not everyone, but like most of them are young, and then some people are grown, they fellowship at a grocery store, or, however they get people to come to a Bible study, and it goes that way.
And so I'm sure that Dee asked you, well, and she said that she had asked people to come visit and that she wanted people to see, and then so she had her own little concerns, but at some point she doesn't have those concerns anymore. She's like, okay, I feel like this is the path I need to go. So now she's talking to her family, and I'm sure she's now saying like, hey, maybe originally I was kind of like hesitant, but I'm all in now. I'm good to go now. But you're not going to feel that way. Like, it's still like, give me a reason why you should be all in on this, and why you would think that I would want to be all in on this. Because the way I see it is, I'm not seeing, what I'm seeing is not making me appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah. Oh, that's exactly, I feel like that's exactly it. Like, again, nothing against you joining the church and finding your faith and getting baptized. I love that for her. Is all of the rest necessary to have done that? Did you have to move out? Do you have to share a room with 3 people? Do you have to share a bed with somebody else? Do you have to move away from campus and make it harder for you to do that?
And I think the answer is no, you don't have to. And I think anybody who's looking at it would have to say that the answer could be no. But it doesn't change the fact that it's happening. So those that decide to do it, how do they, especially when there's conflict and people are worried about them, like, I'm just wondering if there's an answer that could be given to somebody that would make them feel like, all right, I see what you're doing.
And I don't think there is. And essentially how it pretty much played out, you know, families like, Guy, you're close to her, you talk to her every day, can't you convince her? What can you say to her? And eventually, like, I just learned it's her life, right? She's grown. We're old enough to be able to know what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, to do what needs to be done to survive. I realized she's happy. She's happy in her faith. She's happy in the situation that she's in. She has food. She has clothes. She has a roof over her head. She has a job and she's making money. What really is my problem? My problem is that's just not what I wanted for her, but that's just what I want. It's not about what I want. It's about what she wants. It's her life and it's her walk. So eventually, like, I had my concerns. I don't think I was angry. I think I was frustrated because I was confused. And again, like I said, like, her answers stayed the same. We just weren't listening. We were still we were hearing what she's telling us and we weren't accepting it. And I realized, you know, I have to accept this. It's what she wants. It's what she's doing. It's what she's been doing. There's nothing that we can say or do that's going to change that. Again, I'm still in college and trying to figure out my life. I'm not in the position to go to her or even get a place with her to at least give her her own space. I just have to figure out what I can do for myself and just what I can do to support her, which is just support her. Giving her, calling her, hey, mom wants me to talk. Hey, grandma wants me to tell, like, no, at this point I have to let it go and accept it. Again, she's happy. She's not outside in the streets and, you know, she's not getting into trouble. She's at a Bible study, building her faith, getting to know God more.
And not everybody's going to have the same story, but like with Dejane, it may have seemed like, because she talked about this, where like people kind of seemed like she wasn't progressing at the speed that would have been optimal or would have been preferred or seemed likely, right? But where she's at now, and again, you could always make the case that she could be further along, but she seems to have a strong head, strong mindset, and she has an accomplished resume and it's only going to get stronger. And she seems like she's not in a bad place in life. But that's not going to be everybody too, because you're going to hear stories of people that did the same thing and it became too hard for school. And so they made the decision, you know, I'm just not going to finish school. And then they just went a different route, right? And so I don't want to say that everybody ends up where Dee ended up because she ended up in a good spot at the end. And maybe part of that is the reason because she was able to lean on the people in church, but then at some point she becomes able to lean on you guys as well, because I know that you and her have a very close relationship.
We've always been close, and I think there was actually a point too where I was concerned that the church would pull her away from not just me, but from our family, because it seemed like there were instances where they would pull people away from people who would be in their ear, like, maybe you shouldn't do it, and they'll block them out and cut them off or something like that. And so I was definitely concerned for a little bit. I'm like, she wouldn't do that. She wouldn't leave us or abandon us or cut us off. There's no way. We're too close for that. And that didn't happen. We did have a brother that actually went to school with her too. He actually, was like, they don't want her hanging around me anymore. You know, different lifestyle, different, just not church way, godly way. Sure, you know, party, they'll go to parties together and stuff. But again, like, she's not doing anything crazy. But again, like, just being in that environment, it would be better for her not to be, is how I kind of would see it. And so he expressed that he felt like they tried to pull her away from him. I don't think that was the case. I think she definitely hung out with him less, but I could definitely have seen where that disconnect could have actually happened. It didn't, because again, very family oriented. We're very close with our parents, siblings. I don't think she would ever actually do that, and I don't think she would ever do it with me, at least. So just like small things were like, wait, they almost have her. No, they don't have her. Wait, okay, nope, we got her. We still have her. She's still with us. She's not, you know, changing. She's not a complete, like, she's not a stranger. She's still D. She comes to, we see her for whatever holiday or visit, and she's still D. Like, okay, like, again, I think it's just us. We don't want that for her. I want her to be able to get off work. She calls me, she's had a bad day. She has nowhere to go decompress because there's other people in the house. She doesn't have her own space. I believe in having your own space. You need to have somewhere to go to release, cry, scream, be quiet. She didn't have that. And I feel like she was holding that all in, and it's just building up. And so it's only a matter of time. And so I'm like, you need your own space. But again, that's just what I want for her. She was still okay. We live together now. It's honestly mind-blowing that we are. But the conversation will come up all the time. Let's live together. When are we going to live together? How are we going to do it? And she'd always say no. And I would always be like offended and like confused. Like, what do you mean no? It's me. We've lived together already. What do you mean no? And so she, you know, again, gave me the same answer. You know, basically she wanted to live with someone like-minded. But again, like, does that mean I have to go to church with you every day? Does that mean I have to do the Bible studies? I'm not saying I'm going to be out and about. I just not going to be active. And I think at the time, like, that's not what she wanted. She wanted me to join the church, and that's the only way it's going to work.
When did that change?
So I think we had this conversation in Texas. Eventually I moved to Virginia, and by this time she's back in school and she's graduated, and now she's actually working in her career related to the 2 degrees that she has now. So now it's actually, she's doing more. She's not, you know, failing out of school. And I think in the beginning, again, new college student, you start a major, you don't like it, you want to change it. Now I feel like she's definitely coming into her own. She knows what she wants to do now, which is better than me. I don't know what I'm doing yet. I'm still not using my degree. So now it seems like there's more of a balance between church and her other life. So it's okay. Like, there's less to complain about, less to worry about. And, you know, she's actually happy. She's flourishing at work, and she's flourishing in the church. She's traveling out of the country. I don't even have my passport yet. So it's like, oh my gosh, she's doing better than me? How? But like, I'm happy. I'm so happy. I'm like, she's doing all these things. Like, again, she's flourishing now. Before, it seemed like she was just stagnant. Like, she's doing all this stuff and nothing's changing. Like, faith-wise, I mean, she's still in the church. School-wise, still struggling. Career-wise, like, she's not happy in it. But now, like, she's growing. The church is growing. She's helping plant. So it's not like it's hindering her. It's not like it's holding her back, but it's pushing her forward. And she actually wants more for herself, and she's working towards it. And now we're seeing all of her work coming back to her. She's in a career now that she loves. So how can I be upset now? You know, like, the living situation is still not what I prefer, but she's happy. And now it's making sense. It's making a little bit more sense.
I know for at least a year, plus or minus, she's talked about moving with. She was debating going to Vegas to live with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was just recently. Again, I was living with my parents, and it's, again, a perfect situation. What some people would say, I'm not paying rent, I'm not paying bills, I'm working, but now I'm having health complications, so I'm working less. And I'm not saving as much, nearly as much as I was. At this point, I'm just barely breaking even. So, I mean, I might as well move. If I can, I can. I don't have to go. They're not kicking me out. They want me to stay forever. But I'm not happy. Again, I'm stagnant now. Like, I need a new job. So I'm going to get a new job. At least I can get a new job somewhere new. Say I've been here before. I like to hop around while I can. To say I've lived in these different places. A lot of people can't say they can even move to a different city or a different zip code. I'm moving a completely different state for the 4th time now. Not a lot of people can say that. And I have the means. I'm smart. I'm not worried about a job. I actually got a job very quickly. And so I'm like, you know, I think I want to go to Vegas. I have family there. I'm used to being there almost twice a year at this point. And so I'm like, hey, how's your church life going? In the sense, like, can you leave? And she's made it clear, like, you know, she didn't want to leave just yet. She wanted to focus on the discipleship. And so I respect that. But, like, maybe in the next year. So we have those conversations. Like, now it's like she's open. Oh my gosh, opportunity. Can't let it go. She said yes. Let's do it. So, again, like, she's like, you know, maybe not right now. I love that. I love that you're saying maybe. Because it's not no. Now it's not no. It's not never. It's not I'll never live with you. It's just not right now. I want to work. That's an even better answer. You're focusing on that career, but you're still keeping your faith. I can respect that. And so we're, you know, talking about Vegas, and then long story short, I'm applying, and she's like, why don't you just look for jobs in Salt Lake? I would never live in Salt Lake is what I would always say. There's nothing for me in Salt Lake. It's cold. I like hot. I like the heat. What do I want to live in the snow for? Gross. But I'm like, at work, fine, let me look at Salt Lake. Position opens up, get an interview. As soon as I apply, oh my gosh, this is really happening. I think I'm going to Salt Lake. And like Vegas, I had an opportunity in Vegas, but it wasn't as good as Salt Lake. I'm like, at least if I go to Salt Lake, I'm guaranteed to live with her. I can't wait. But again, like, we have another conversation. I'm not living with church people, and we're not having church people live with us. I don't want to live with you and you're sharing a room. What I want, I'm going to get what I want for you now. You've had your time. Now I'm going to get what I want. I want you to have your own space. I want you to have your own place to decompress, to just have for yourself. To my surprise, I'm down with that. Really? And so, like, again, like, making sure we're communicating. And I feel like that just always helped with us. We've always been open about our feelings and just expressing ourselves and our thoughts towards situations. And she knows how I feel in regards to the church. Again, I don't have a problem. I just don't like what they're doing for her. What's the end game? Like you mentioned, when do you grow out When do you move out of living with all these disciples and actually, where does your family come into play? Where does your house come into play? Like, how long do you stay here before you move there? You're helping these families that are families, that have kids, that have husbands and wives and are dating. And how do you date in where you are now? And so she's like, I don't know. I'm like, I feel like you should know by now. I think you've been here long enough.
I know that there'll be people that have other answers. When you're young and you're looking for purpose and somebody shows you this Jesus that called fishermen and told them to give up their careers and dedicate their lives towards advancing the gospel, right? It's presented in such a way that there's like, man, I got to be sold out for this. I got to be, and there's this bit of immaturity and there's this bit of zealousness that's like, man, Jesus stuck it to the Pharisees. So anybody that tries to knock me off track, I'm gonna stick it to them, right? You're like, how do you go, I'm gonna be all sold out, but at the same time not make it look ugly, and turn certain people off, and especially your family, who I know you love the most, there has to be some version of and I know there are verses in the Bible that people will point to where they'll say, Mary and the brothers came to Jesus, and Jesus said, who is my mother and brothers but that to do the will of my Father, right? But at the same time, the person that led the church after Jesus left this earth was his brother. Like, James was in charge of the church, right? So at some point, Jesus made an impact on his family in a positive way. It wasn't always putting them down and always have your conviction, do what you're supposed to do, but love your family. There's no way that that's not the second commandment, to love your neighbor. You love your neighbor more than your family. Where I feel like the church needs to grow is having people transition out of that into the next level of their life. They're all about, getting people to, and it's not the church per se, but it's the call of Jesus, follow me. Die to yourself and follow me. That's the message. And so you're like, all right, cool, I'm gonna die to myself, I'm gonna follow. But you're still supposed to be in this world, right? People don't want to go to a church where there isn't a structure that helps you become a better person as well, right? So you can only be a college student so long before you have to hit the next tier and learn how to be a dad, learn how to be a husband, if that's the route you're going to go. And what I see is a lot of people in very similar situations not taking the next step. That's what I see, right? And so with you coming here and living with Dee, you're the person telling her to, and so it doesn't have to be somebody from church to tell her to take the next step. It just has to be somebody that's mature enough to know that, hey, the next step of life, don't abandon your faith, be sold out, do whatever you got to do, but you got to think ahead. You definitely have to think ahead. And what a lot of people don't know is because they only learn from the person that's sitting right next to them that doesn't know a lot either, is that this movement founded colleges on this, in the States. So you have Pepperdine College, which was founded by this movement. You have Abilene Christian, you have Bethany. So there's a lot of colleges that were founded in the 1800s by this movement. So how did we go from, hey, let's be a leader in the world, helping people, get an education, like college education about who Jesus is and how to live, to let's just all live together until we're 50 and 60 years old. But you see it more as how are we supposed to help people take the next step? It shouldn't take, well, it should take your sister to punch you in the arm, because that's what sisters should do. But if you're also gonna, encourage people to live this life, at some point you should also encourage them to take the next steps too, if you're gonna be that actively involved in their life. So I only say that to say that I think what you've seen and what you expressed is culture, and there are positives to the culture and there are negatives to the culture, and there's also going to be perception. If you're in it, I guess as anything that you do, you're going to defend what you're doing, right? And so, and you might be wrong because you're defending what you're doing. And you're defending what you're doing because, you're doing it. So if you thought it was wrong, you wouldn't be doing it, right? Even drug addicts defend what they're doing, right? But obviously people say like, no, that ain't the right route. I don't know. I don't really know. I'm not trying to answer a question here. I'm really just was very happy that you were able to express what other people have seen, because you read other people's stories, what you saw, how it all related, and take it for what it is. And maybe, it'll inspire people who end up becoming in households like that, because that is the culture. And so, they move in with somebody that they're not jerks to their family, because there's no reason for that. And that they're able to kind of express like, hey, I know that this isn't your typical scenario, but I am in control of my own faculties. You don't need to go get I don't know what they call those things where they get a van and they pull you out, an intervention. I think he said let me go to the house and spend some time with you. Let's have a Christmas, let me show you that I still love you, and all that kind of stuff. And I think that's more gospel that needs to happen in the church, because I think sometimes people do become a little isolationist. They do think like, I'm going to be like Jesus and say, who's my mother and brother, but that did the will of my Father. No, your mother and brother is your mother and brother still. Like, unless, case by case, right? I can't think of a situation, but I'm sure there are situations where maybe there does need to be maybe a little bit of pulling away, because they keep dragging you into something that you shouldn't be into. But I don't think that's most people. I think that's more like a rare case. Anyway, I don't know. Was this good?
This was good.
Okay.
Really hope it was insightful.
I think it was, yeah.
Still learning. And, now that I'm here, I'm kind of observing, and nothing I didn't know. She talks about everybody all the time. And everybody needs to be like, we know so much about you. So, again, it's definitely different than it was in the beginning. But again, too, young, dumb, still learning. So, we're older now. We know what we want now. Working towards what we want now. So, yeah.